A text arrived, late one Tuesday night, illuminating my phone with a harsh, synthetic glow. It was from my mother, Sarah. I didn't even have to unlock the screen to feel the weight of her words. The property has been sold. It read, "We changed the locks on the workshop tonight. You no longer have access to Gavel and Grain. Let's see how you survive on your own now." Haha. That final line, that casual, written laugh, was their victory lap. It wasn't just a business move. It was a celebration of my exclusion. Have you ever felt like the invisible one in your own family? Let me know your story down in the comments. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I didn't cry. I didn't reach for the phone to scream or beg for an explanation. In that silent apartment, the air felt suddenly thin, but my mind was sharper than it had been in years. I sat perfectly still, letting a cold, measured smile settle on my face. This wasn't a breakdown. It was a balance sheet. They thought that physically locking the doors to the workshop solved their problem. They believed that a new set of brass deadbolts could strip me of 10 years of my life. They forgot one crucial detail. I didn't just work at the workshop. I owned the foundation it stood on. For 10 years, I wasn't just building furniture. I was building a financial fortress. While Robert spent his weekends at country clubs, I was taking on high-end private commissions under my own brand, M-Tech. I invested every cent of those profits into tech stocks and index funds. My parents saw a reliable worker, but my brokerage account saw a strategist. That was how I had the $380,000 ready to go. I wasn't just surviving. I was prepared. I walked over to my desk and opened my laptop. The bright screen cut through the darkness of the room, reflecting in my eyes as I logged into the supplier portal for Asheville's primary reclaimed timber distributor. My name, Madison, was the only one registered to that account. Every single piece of rare wood, every specialty stain, and every hardware order was guaranteed by my personal credit card and my individual credit score. I saw the order my father, Robert, had submitted earlier that afternoon. It was for $100,000 worth of rare, old-growth chestnut, set for delivery the next morning. Without a second thought, I hit the cancel button. Next, I moved to the website for the equipment leasing company. The high-tech machine tools and the precision lathes they were so proud of were the heartbeat of Gavel and Grain. But they weren't the owners. My signature, my credit, and my personal guarantee secured those leases. I clicked through the portal and terminated the contracts, effective immediately. I didn't stop there. I went to our proprietary design cloud and revoked all access to my custom furniture design files. I had spent thousands of hours perfecting those designs, and in 3 clicks, I made them invisible. By 3 minutes past midnight, only moments after their declaration of victory, I had completely halted their entire supply chain. The workshop would be a hollow shell by sunup. They couldn't even buy a single hand plane or a box of screws without my involvement. For years, I had been the silent investor in their version of a family, footing the bill for their arrogance while they treated me like the hired help. They weren't shocked by what they had done to me. They were about to be shocked that I had stopped playing along. My laptop glowed with a different kind of sunrise. The kind made of facts, numbers, and quiet, clinical retribution. To understand why I felt zero guilt while I systematically gutted my family's livelihood, you have to understand the last decade of my life. My name is Madison, and for 10 years, I haven't just been an employee at Gavel and Grain, I have been its entire structural support. While my sister, Samantha, was treated as the family's crown jewel, I was the one relegated to the sawdust and the grease. My father, Robert, was the charismatic face of the operation, a man who loved to shake hands and tell stories, but couldn't distinguish between a chisel and a screwdriver. My mother, Sarah, cared only for the social standing that owning a high-end Asheville workshop provided. I was the one they called responsible. It sounds like a compliment, doesn't it? But in a family like mine, responsible is just code for being a reliable burden bearer. While Samantha received a fully funded lifestyle and a wardrobe for her influencer aspirations, I was the one breathing in wood dust 12 hours a day. I started sweeping these floors when I was 15, and by 22, I was the lead artisan, the bookkeeper, and the only thing stopping the business from falling into foreclosure. The workshop operated like a bottomless pit for cash, and I was the only one throwing money into it. This wasn't just my time, it was my life savings. Over the last 5 years, I poured a total of $380,000 into their ego. It started when my father's business line was about to be cancelled by the bank. The note was for $210,000. I took out a separate loan myself to pay it off, using my own credit to secure their legacy. Later, I spent $100,000 on the very machinery and rare timber I just cancelled equipment the shop. Literally, could not function without. The detail that hurts the most to recall is the $70,000 in payroll I covered over the last 2 years. I added small amounts constantly, a few thousand here and there, just to prevent my father from having to admit his failures to the staff. I protected him from the humiliation of bounced checks, while he used my money to finance Samantha's trips to Europe. People often ask why someone would stay in such a losing venture. They wonder why I didn't just walk away years ago. It seems obvious from the outside, but when you are immersed in it, you are bound by what I call the survivor's unseen chains. When you grow up in an environment where your value is tied strictly to your utility, you stop being a person and start functioning as a support column. You become terrified of pausing. You fear that if you stop holding things up, the entire structure will crash down, and you assume it will be entirely your fault. This is a form of learned helplessness, a prison without physical bars. I became so accustomed to the dynamic that I stopped looking for the exit. I maintained the burden because I truly believed that if my performance was good enough, if I was useful enough, they would finally see me. But that acknowledgement never comes for a support column. My mother proudly boasted about the family business while I worked, until my hands were calloused and stained, all while Samantha posted photos of champagne I had indirectly paid for. They didn't view their actions as cruel. They saw my sacrifice as their entitlement. At 7 a.m. sharp, my phone began its relentless assault. I sat at my small kitchen table, a single cup of black coffee in my hand, watching the screen dance across the wood. The first was a frantic voicemail from my father, Robert. He wasn't inquiring about my well-being after being evicted from the life I built. He was shouting, "Madison, what the hell did you do? All our lumber orders are cancelled. The workshop is completely frozen. You have created a massive crisis, and you need to fix this immediately." A few seconds later, a text arrived from my sister, Samantha. "You are totally overreacting," she wrote. "Mom was just upset. You know how she can be when she is stressed about the wedding? You need to call the wood distributor back and restore the orders right now. This is highly inconvenient for me." Of course it was. She was likely worried that the high-end artisan background she used for her content was suddenly turning into a hollow set. Then came the grand finale. My mother, Sarah, made a public announcement on her social media account for all our Asheville social circles to see. "It is truly heartbreaking when children forget who provided for them," the post began. "We gave them everything we had. Now they are trying to ruin their entire family over some minor disagreement. Please pray for our family during this difficult time." I reviewed every single communication with the detachment of a forensic accountant. I listened to the entire 3-minute voicemail of my father's rage. Yet, in that entire torrent of fear, accusation, and public shaming, nobody bothered to ask why. Not one person checked to see if I had a place to stay after they changed the locks. Not one person admitted they had gone too far with that final, mocking text. They weren't sorry about what they had done to me. They were only furious that I had finally shut off their money flow. Their total lack of regret was the ultimate confirmation. It proved that my compassion had been a luxury they had overdrafted for years. This wasn't a family dynamic. It was a business arrangement where I was the only one providing the capital. I realized then that they were trapped in the trap of normalizing cruelty. They didn't see themselves as malicious. They were far more common and truly terrifying. They were people who had justified their selfishness for so long that they no longer realized they were being selfish at all. In their minds, they weren't stealing my $380,000. They saw it as their entitlement. It was just the responsible daughter doing her required duty to ensure the golden child could shine. They had lived their lives through Samantha for so long that my reality, the sawdust, the 12-hour shifts, the mountain debt I covered, was just background noise to them. They truly believed that my value was equal to my utility. Now that the utility was gone, they didn't see a daughter in pain. They saw a broken tool that was refusing to work. Their lack of remorse gave me the final authorization I required. It cleared the fog of guilt that had kept me a prisoner in my own workshop for a decade. I didn't respond to any of them. I didn't offer a defense or a counter-argument. I let their rising panic hang in the air like the smell of fresh cedar. I simply finished my coffee, opened my laptop, and prepared to move from digital sabotage to a full-scale professional excavation. I didn't waste another minute on their frantic messages. Instead, I placed a different kind of call. I called Paige. We had been roommates in college, surviving late nights and cheap coffee together. Now, she was a partner at one of the most prestigious corporate firms in North Carolina. I told her everything, the decade of free labor, the calloused hands, the ha-ha text. And then I provided the cold, hard numbers. I detailed the $210,000 business line, the $100,000 for machinery and rare lumber, and the $70,000 in secret payroll coverage. The total was exactly $380,000. There was a long, heavy silence on the line before Paige spoke. Her voice had turned clinical and razor sharp. "Madison," she said, "they didn't just lock you out of a workshop. This is a textbook case of unjust enrichment. They have absolutely no idea what they have just started. Tell me your exact goal." I didn't hesitate. "I want every penny they owe me," I said. "I want them to realize that my value was never a donation. It was a debt." Paige was ruthless. By that afternoon, she had prepared a formal legal notification, a demand letter, delivered by a professional courier directly to my parents' front door. The terms were binary. They had 30 days to comply. Option 1 was a legally binding repayment schedule for the full $380,000. Option 2 was granting me an immediate 50% ownership stake in the upcoming land sale. If they ignored the letter, we would file a full lawsuit for the total amount, plus accrued interest, and all legal expenses. This was no longer a family disagreement. I had just shown up to a knife fight carrying a tank. 48 hours later, Paige called me back. Her voice wasn't just sharp this time, it was lethal. "Are you sitting down?" she asked. I sat. "I investigated the corporate filings for the purchasing group of the workshop property," she said. "The contract was signed by a man named Samuel Thorne. Does that name mean anything to you?" I felt the blood drain from my face. Thorne was the surname of Samantha's fiancé. Samuel Thorne was her future father-in-law. This wasn't just a random business deal. It was a secret arrangement, a dowry. My parents were selling the land I had saved to buy Samantha's way into Asheville's elite society. My sweat, my money, and 10 years of my life were being used as a bribe to secure her status. But that wasn't even the kill shot. Paige continued, her tone dropping into a dangerous chill. "I subpoenaed the original bank documents for that initial $210,000 loan. You told me your father asked for your help because he faced default. But the loan already had a guarantor. Your father forged your signature on the original application, Madison. He didn't come to you for help. He came to you to hide his felony. If that loan had defaulted, the bank wouldn't have just taken the shop. They would have taken my apartment, my car, and my entire future." I realized then that I hadn't been helping my family. I had been unknowingly destroying the evidence of my father's crime. I took a deep breath, visualizing the world without Paige, the world where I hadn't fought back. In that world, I would be bankrupt, homeless, and still begging for the approval of people who had stolen my identity. The ha-ha text finally made perfect, sick sense. They locked me out because the land was sold, and they thought I, the only witness to their fraud, was finally redundant. The fraud lawsuit hit them with the force of a falling oak. By Monday morning, the news had reached Samuel Thorne. High Society Asheville is a small, judgmental circle, and a developer like Thorne doesn't build his brand on a foundation of felony forgery. Paige called me with a grim satisfaction in her voice. Thorne is threatening to pull out of the land purchase, she said. He told your father he won't link his name or his son's future to a criminal investigation. The very deal they had committed identity theft to secure was now being incinerated by the truth. The panic started immediately. My phone became a graveyard of missed calls and desperate texts. I ignored every single one of them. I didn't need to hear their excuses. I was no longer interested in the why. I was only interested in the how much. Late Tuesday night, a frantic pounding erupted at my door. I checked the peephole. It was my mother, Sarah. Her polished facade was gone. Her hair was disheveled from the mountain wind, and her eyes were red from weeping. I opened the door just a few inches, leaving the security chain engaged. Madison, please, she sobbed, clutching a handkerchief. You have to stop this. Samuel Thorne is backing out. He told Trevor the wedding is off. If this lawsuit goes forward, you're ruining your sister's life. Samantha is devastated. She's your sister. Please, do something for the family. I looked at her, and for the first time in my life, I felt absolutely nothing. No guilt, no urge to comfort her, no desire to fix the mess they had made. I remembered the ha-ha at the end of her text. I remembered the $380,000 of my life they had siphoned away like it was their birthright. This was never about money, Mom, I said, my voice as flat as a sanded board. You know that. We'll pay you, she pleaded, her voice rising to a shrill pitch. We'll sign whatever you want. Just withdraw the fraud claim. Think about what this is doing to our reputation. Think about Samantha's future. You don't understand how the law works, Mom. I didn't just file a lawsuit. I reported a felony forgery. The district attorney has the evidence now, and the state is the one pressing charges. In the eyes of the law, Dad didn't just steal from me, he committed a crime against the public trust. I couldn't stop this train now, even if I wanted to. That choice was made the second he picked up a pen to sign my name. I stepped back into the shadows of my hallway. I already did something for the family, Mom, I told her quietly. I reached onto the entry table, retrieved a heavy, stapled document, and slid it through the gap in the door. She looked at it, her hands trembling so hard she almost dropped it. What is this, a settlement? No, I informed her. That is a copy of the formal criminal complaint for forgery I filed against Dad with the district attorney this afternoon. I sent a duplicate to Samuel Thorne's office an hour ago. Her face went from a blotchy red to a deathly, translucent white. The hope in her eyes didn't just fade, it died. She realized in that moment that the responsible daughter was gone. The support column had finally walked away, and the entire weight of their crimes was about to crush them. I already gave you exactly what you deserved, I said. I gave you justice. I shut the door and turned the lock. The sound of the deadbolt sliding home was the most satisfying noise I had ever heard. I walked back into my silent apartment, leaving her crying on the landing. My family had spent 10 years treating my life like a resource to be mined. They had forged my name on a $210,000 loan and expected me to be grateful for the privilege of paying it back. They had sold my sweat as a dowry, but they forgot that a master artisan knows exactly how to take things apart. The criminal complaint was the end of Gavel and Grain. It was the final signature on their legacy of greed. 6 months passed with the slow, rhythmic crawl of a wood plane across raw oak. The Asheville workshop land was eventually sold at a public auction to cover the mountain of debts my father had accumulated through his fraud and mismanagement. After the legal fees were settled and the creditors were satisfied, I watched the wire transfer finally clear on my laptop. $400,000. I opened my old financial spreadsheet one last time, the one that meticulously tracked the $380,000 I had poured into a family that saw me as a cash cow. I stared at the numbers for a long moment, realizing they were no longer a record of my survival, but the price I had paid for my own freedom. I highlighted the file and pressed delete. That night, I slept without the ghost of an invoice or the smell of grease haunting my dreams. Justice, I realized, isn't just about destruction. There is the storm's justice, which destroys to settle a score, leaving behind nothing but wreckage and silence. But there is also the soil's justice, the kind that takes the ruins of a painful past and uses them to plant new growth. I chose the soil. I used the settlement to buy a quiet, sturdy building on the other side of the city. I cleaned the floors, painted the walls a bright, hopeful white, and filled it with the best precision equipment money could buy. Today, M-Tech Woodworking is officially open. My schedule is booked for the next 3 months with clients who value the artisan, not the socialite facade. This morning, standing over a massive slab of walnut, my new apprentice, a young woman fresh from trade school, looked at me with wide, nervous eyes. She gripped her tools like she was afraid they might break. "Madison," she asked softly, "am I ready?" I saw my younger self in the set of her shoulders and the determination in her gaze. I reached out, took a clean, sharp chisel, and placed it firmly in her palm. "You're ready," I told her. "Let me show you how to build a legacy that is yours alone. I am free. I am no longer a support column for people who refuse to stand on their own. I am a builder, and this is my sovereignty." Have you ever had to tear down your own life to stop people from using you? Did you have to break a cycle to finally find your own voice? Tell me your story in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of justice.